Number 10. The charges. So what is he really being arrested for? The case against him focuses on an alleged $130,000 payment made to the adult film star Stormy Daniels in the final days of his 2016 presidential campaign. Stormy claims that she had an affair with Trump in 2006, what she has since denied. In 2016, during his run for presidency, Stormy offered to sell the story to the press. When Trump's lawyer heard about these plans, he offered Stormy $130,000 in order to keep quiet. Allegedly, after he was elected, Trump reimbursed his lawyer and apparently paid him back double the original amount, but still continued to deny anything happened between the two. Reportedly, Trump's finances have been investigated by New York investigators for years now leading up to this. Since this, Trump has described this whole investigation as a politically motivated witch hunt. Number 9. Taking into custody. Trump is set to surrender to the authorities at 2:45 on Tuesday in New York, but will most likely arrive to the courthouse an hour before that in order to be processed. It looks like the normal paperwork will be completed, which essentially means his details will be taken down. Investigators will then check for outstanding arrest warrants or charges that are under his name. As is routine, his fingerprints will also be taken. After all the typical procedures are done, he will be considered under arrest and in full custody. Many spectators have wondered whether or not there will be a perp walk for Trump. A perp walk essentially refers to the moment when law enforcement officers walk the suspect to the courthouse through a very public space. This gives viewers and the media a chance to get a full view of the arrest. Trump has previously expressed some interest in doing a perp walk and reportedly asked if he should smile and if he could be handcuffed. An insider close to Donald Trump told the press that yes, he was allowed to smile, but no to being handcuffed, saying that it was a bad look. The insider revealed that they fully expect a defiant performance from Trump after becoming the first former president to ever face charges. A senior vice president at the crisis firm said about Trump, "He is a very specific type of personality. He can't be shamed, and he can't avoid a spotlight. So that's why I think he's going to make a big spectacle regardless." Even though Trump reportedly welcomes the idea of doing a perp walk and being paraded around reporters and onlookers, it's not looking like it's something that's going to happen. Allegedly, since he is surrendering voluntarily, arrangements are likely to be made between the Secret Service and law enforcement in order to avoid the insane media presence. Number 8. The gag order. The court has the power to impose a gag order, which would cut him off from publicly discussing the case. If he does, this could impose legal consequences. And as the former president has already been lashing out over this indictment, many think that he will up his verbal disdain for the charges. Reportedly, if the gag order is violated, New York has a punishment of a $1,000 fine or up to 30 days in jail. Many experts have come forward and said it's extremely likely that the court is going to impose this gag order on Trump. This is partially because of his attack on prosecutors investigating the charges. At campaign rallies and speeches, as well as on social media, Trump has labeled the federal prosecutors as thugs and even claimed that 2 of them are racist. At a Texas rally, Trump said about the federal investigators, "They are thugs and criminals who are corrupting our justice system." He even warned of a possible death and destruction if he is charged, well on his Truth Social platform. Because of all this, it really wouldn't be too surprising if they attempted to keep him quiet with a gag order at court. Number 7. The trial. It's not guaranteed that Trump's case will go to trial, but if it does, many expect it won't happen for quite some time, as he has been known to try and delay legal and civil proceedings that are pushed against him. Many expect that he will argue that he can't get a fair trial in New York and push it to be moved somewhere else. When looking at cases which are similar to Trump's, they usually take more than a year at least before they make their way to trial. For reference, previously Manhattan DA's tax fraud case against Trump Organization took about 15 months before they even went to court after the charges were filed. Others suspect that Trump's lawyers could request that the trial be pushed all the way back until after the 2024 election. An LA criminal defense attorney revealed that what they think about this, saying whether that request will be granted is another matter. It's impossible to understate how much such a ruling would complicate the case. Number 6. Presidential run. Many have asked the question, can Trump still run for president? But it looks like yes, he can. A legal expert revealed that the charges against him won't disqualify his bid for presidency. The US Constitution lists 3 requirements for president eligibility: that they're at least 35 years old and must have been a resident of the US for at least 14 years, meaning that if he even does go to jail, it looks like he's all good with continuing his run for the 2020 election. When Trump was asked in early March if he would still run, he said, "Absolutely. I wouldn't even think about leaving. Probably it'll enhance my numbers." Trump has stood by his statement of being completely innocent and has gone on to say, "This is a political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history." Number 5. Other investigations. This could be a long road for Trump, considering this won't stop other federal investigators from looking into his other potential cases, including lawsuits against the whole Trump family. There are even legal battles brewing from within. Mary Trump, Donald's niece, has accused Trump of defrauding her millions of dollars in inheritance dispute. So far, this one has been unsuccessful so far, but don't worry, there's so many more. He has a number of lawsuits against those who were involved in the Capitol riots, which could name Trump. Not only that, but he's also facing a pretty serious investigation in Florida. Federal officials searched through his estate in August as part of an investigation into the numerous classified documents which were taken out of the White House. On the 21st of March, ABC News reported that prosecutors from the special counsel's office believe that Trump misled his own lawyers over what happened with the missing papers. Looks like this is set to be a very long year for the former president. Number 4. Mugshot. Spectators have been asking the question, will we get to see the mugshot? The details about this expected mugshot haven't been made entirely clear as of yet though. One of Trump's attorney has come forward speaking to CNN and saying that there's no need for a mugshot, considering he is already such a recognizable figure already. She said, "Mugshots are for people so that you recognize who they are. He is the most recognized face in the world, let alone the country right now, so there's no need for that. There's no need for the theatrics." The attorney went on to say, "I do have a problem with leaking pictures. I think it's because we're in the campaign, because he's leading the GOP candidate. It's not going to help anything." Other sources have brought up that there is allegedly no mugshot equipment in the courtroom where Trump will be taken. It currently still remains unclear if it will be set up in time. As some are waiting to get a Donald Trump mugshot t-shirt, you may be out of luck. Even if he does receive one, mugshots are not public record under New York law, so it's unclear whether the public would even get a chance to view the photo. Seems Donald is really loving the spotlight on him though, because on Monday he sent out a fundraising email with the subject line, "Tomorrow I will be arrested." Not only that, but his campaign is now selling t-shirts that say, "I stand with Trump." Number 3. His plea. Trump's attorney has shared that he will not be pleading guilty when he appears in court. He said on Good Morning America, "One thing I can assure you, as I sit here today, there will be no guilty plea in this case. That's one thing I can guarantee you." The attorney also claimed that he believes the case will be dismissed before it even reaches the trial stage. He shared, "I don't think this case is going to see a jury. I think it's going to go away on paper." Trump said in an email that was sent out Tuesday morning, "Today is the day that a ruling political part arrests its leading opponent for having committed no crime." One of Trump's lawyers even has a matter-of-factly stated that it won't be a long day in court. Late on Monday, it was reported that Trump is looking to face about 34 felony counts, stemming from the hush money allegations and the falsification of business records. Reportedly, 5 photographers will be admitted into the courtroom and are allowed to take photos for several minutes before being asked to leave. Trump's lawyers supposedly weren't fans of this though, and even bugged a judge to keep them away. Number 2. Bail. After the arraignment, it's expected that Trump will be released to the authorities because of the charges against him don't require that a bail be set. Reportedly, after being released, Trump will return back to his estate in Florida. He is set to deliver his remarks from the Mar-a-Lago estate at 8:15 Tuesday, and it's almost certain that Trump will just be immediately released considering the new bail rules that have been set in New York. The new rules allowed people who have been indicted under a misdemeanor charges or nonviolent felonies to be released without bail, only unless they are considered a flight risk. The New York Times has reported that he'll most likely be held in an interview room rather than a holding cell. Looks like it's going to be a pretty short situation for the former president. Number 1. Handcuffs. Spectators have wondered if Donald will be arrested walking into the court on Tuesday and what their whole ordeal will look like in the end. And it seems Trump wants it all, including the handcuffs. He has claimed previously how he wants it to be a spectacle, avoiding to look weak. Trump told his associates that he wants to be handcuffed when he's arraigned in court after being indicted. Based on a few anonymous sources, they have stated that the ex-president is increasingly insistent that he wants to be handcuffed behind his back for the perp walk, also claiming to describe his experience as something that is going to be fun. Neither The Guardian or The Times sources were certain of how serious Trump's comments actually were. One advisor shared saying, "I'm unsure whether he actually grasped the enormity of the indictment. It seems his desire for this big public arrest is reportedly because he wants to fire up his supporters and project defiance. Even if this is true though, another insider has claimed that these charges have left him deeply anxious and fears that a quiet proceeding could make him look weak. But despite what he wants with this publicity, it looks like it's just not going to happen for Trump.
And at number 10, Kim Kardashian. In 2017, after Trump had been president for about a year, Kim spoke to Harper's Bazaar Arabia, sharing her thoughts on Trump. And even though her ex-husband Kanye is a huge fan of Trump's, Kim is not, saying, quote, "Anyone can run the US better. My daughter would be better. It's really scary, the world that we're living in now. And when you did feel safe at home, now with Trump in presidency, you just don't feel safe anymore." Years later, Trump and Kim met at the White House to talk about prison reform, and Trump even pardoned Alice Mary Johnson after lobbying from Kim. So there is a possibility that she thinks differently of him after that. And at number 9, Woody Harrelson. If you've ever wondered what having dinner with Donald Trump is like, Woody Harrelson is here to tell you, but it's probably a lot worse than you might have assumed. Apparently in 2002, Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura invited Harrelson to a dinner at Trump Tower because Trump was hoping to convince Ventura to be his 2004 running mate. Over 2.5 hours, Harrelson, Ventura, Trump, and his fiancée Melania had dinner, but it was not enjoyable. Apparently Trump completely dominated the conversation and spoke overwhelmingly. Harrelson continued, quote, "It got so bad I had to go outside and burn one before returning to the monologue monopoly." Yeah, I've definitely had those dinners where the other person just talks 95% of the time and it's like, why am I even here? Could be a brick wall right now. And at number 8, Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy Teigen and Donald Trump had a long battle on their platform of choice, Twitter. Trump came after her and her husband John Legend in a series of tweets. Apparently the reason was because the couple didn't give Trump the credit he deserved on prison reform. After this, Teigen went off on Trump, which led Trump to tweet that she was a, quote, "filthy-mouthed woman." This feud between them ended with Chrissy getting blocked. In response to her being blocked, Chrissy told People magazine, quote, "I have been very anti-Trump since The Apprentice, like when it first started, so it didn't start during the presidency like everyone thinks. This goes pretty deep. And I don't even follow him, so I'm definitely fine being blocked. There's just this part of me that's so happy that he had to actually do that." And at number 7, Samuel L. Jackson. If you follow Trump at all, then you know he loves playing golf. And over the years he's played golf with a lot of celebrities, but most of them do not have good things to say about those golf games when asked. When Samuel L. Jackson was asked who the better golfer is, him or Trump, Jackson said, quote, "Oh, I am for sure. I don't cheat." Yikes, that was pretty savage. Alice Cooper backed up this story, saying during another interview, quote, "The worst celebrity golf cheat? I wish I could tell you that. It would be a shocker. I played golf with Donald Trump one time. That's all I'm gonna say." Clearly implying that he meant Trump was the cheater. Apparently Oscar De La Hoya actually caught Trump in the act of cheating while golfing and claimed that Trump would drop balls wherever he wanted on the course and made it seem like that's where his ball actually landed when they know it wasn't. And at number 6, Tom Hanks. Before the film The Post was released to the public, Trump asked to have a showing of the movie at the White House. Trump also invited Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep to be a part of the screening as they are the stars of the film. However, both actors refused the invitation and stated their disagreement with his policies and him as a person as the reason why. Hanks went into more detail, telling The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "I would not have been able to imagine that we would be living in a country where extremists are doing torchlight parades in Charlottesville and jokes about Pocahontas are being made in front of the Navajo code talkers. And individually we have to decide when to take the ramparts. You don't take to the ramparts necessarily right away, but you do have to start weighing things." Halfway number 5, Olivia Wilde. Olivia Wilde has been very vocal against Trump ever since he was running to be president in 2016. In 2015, Olivia told Page 6, quote, "The fact that we can have someone running for president who openly projects that xenophobia is really sickening, particularly when you look at a film like this and remember our roots." The movie she was referring to here was called Ellis, giving a closer look into the struggles of immigrants. Wilde also participated in the Women's March in 2018, directly calling out Trump as her reason for attendance. She also once tweeted out, quote, "Hi, good morning. I despise Donald Trump with all of my guts. And his speech last night only confirmed what a pathetic, petulant, dishonest pig that he is." I honestly had no idea how vocal she's been against him until right now. And at number 4, Trevor Noah. Comedian and late night host Trevor Noah has taken plenty of shots at Trump over the years, frequently criticizing him on his show, The Daily Show. But Trevor's not only criticized Trump himself, but also those around him, saying that the people that enable Trump and help him get power are the most dangerous. Saying, quote, "I'm not afraid of Donald Trump. I'm afraid of the people that support support Donald Trump, and I'm not referring to his voters. I'm speaking about the people on his team, the people who enable him. They know what he's doing, they know when he's doing something wrong, going on to name Mike Pence and Kellyanne Conway specifically. And at number 3, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen once shared a story about running into Trump at a restaurant before Sheen's wedding, and this story proves what a phony that Trump can be. Sheen said that Trump decided to give him a pair of diamond cufflinks because he wasn't able to make it to the wedding, basically to make up for the fact that he wouldn't be able to give him a wedding gift on the actual day. At the time, Sheen thought that was very thoughtful of him. However, 6 months later, Sheen was having some jewelry appraised and decided to include the cufflinks in the appraisal to get a better idea of what they might be worth. Sheen continued, quote, "When the jeweler took a look, she recoiled and said, in their finest moment, they were cheap pewter and bad zirconia. They had Trump stamped on them." I think that says a lot about the man. And at number 2, LeBron James. LeBron James was very involved with politics when Barack Obama was president, even meeting him at the White House a number of times. However, when Trump invited a number of NBA players to the White House and they refused, James decided it was time for him to share his true thoughts. After Stephen Curry declined Trump's invite, Trump responded by claiming that he was not allowed to go anyways. Then James tweeted, quote, "You bum Stephen Curry already said he ain't going, so therefore ain't no invite. Going to the White House was a great honor until you showed up." The Philadelphia Eagles also got their invite revoked, and LeBron responded that it was not a shock and that this type of negative communication would continue as long as Trump was in office. And finally, number 1, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo Rivera is a longtime friend and supporter of Trump's who's been affiliated with the Republican Party for years. However, after the January 6th insurrection of the Capitol, Rivera said that he was reevaluating his loyalty to Trump. He wrote that after the events at the Capitol, he realized that his loyalty to Trump was misplaced, adding, quote, "A loyal friend was hounded without mercy by Democrats intent on destroying him day one, but then he lost the election, and losing the election made Donald Trump crazy. It revealed the dysfunction in him that I refused to see." Rivera noted that Trump should be impeached for his behavior, especially after Clinton was impeached for lying about inappropriate sexual relations. Starting off at number 10, Cardi B. Cardi B has been very involved in politics over the last few years, participating in interviews with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, and she's made her stance against Trump very clear. After the Capitol storming on the 6th, she also tweeted out that Trump needs to be held accountable, saying, quote, "I don't want to hear this. We impeached Trump. He only got a few days left in office anyways. By the time he gets impeached, he'll be at his penthouse in New York already. How about y'all put him in jail?" But people in the replies were not very supportive of those statements, and pointing out that it's better that Trump gets impeached a second time because then he won't be able to run for public office again. And for an update, he did actually end up getting impeached a second time in the House. Because if he does get successfully impeached, he will not be able to run for public office again. This is important because it's not a long shot to think Trump might actually try to run for president again in 2024. I believe he's actually said he might too. And at number 9, Arnold Schwarzenegger. After the Capitol was stormed by Trump supporters, former California governor and actor Arnold Schwarzenegger uploaded a video to Instagram denouncing President Trump and his actions. He spoke about his upbringing in Austria and the night they referred to as, quote, "the night of broken glass," where violence broke out in the streets, adding, quote, "I grew up in the ruins of a country that suffered the loss of its democracy. I was born in 1947, 2 years after the Second World War. Growing up, I was surrounded by broken men drinking away their guilt over their participation in the most evil regime in history." Schwarzenegger then went on to place a parallel between these events, the events that took place at the Capitol, also blaming Trump for continuing to make baseless claims of election fraud and, quote, misleading people with lies. Finishing off the video saying, quote, "President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever," as well as asking his supporters to follow President-elect Joe Biden. And at number 8, Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder posted a long tweet thread over the weekend after the Capitol riots, asking for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. Writing in the tweets, quote, "It is time for the leaders of this country to invoke the 25th Amendment. Isn't it obvious? Today has made me sad and disbelief with what is happening in my country, a country that has inspired my songs of hope and love." Then adding, quote, "I am heartbroken and astounded that this narcissistic and dangerous president would put lives in danger and encourage violent sedation against our government. That man is no longer able to serve as president because he cannot accept defeat. Can we afford 2 more weeks? I say no." And these tweets made it abundantly clear that he wants Trump out of office as soon as possible. And at number 7, Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro has been extremely vocal against the president since his first days in office, making it clear he doesn't like his rhetoric. He said in an interview in 2017, quote, "If he was smart, he'd be even more dangerous. He's dangerous as it is. He's terrible and flat out blatant racist," and doubling down on that. And it's good that he does because he's going to sink himself. At this point, we're at a crisis in this country with this fool who never should have gotten into the position that he's in. Then in 2019, when the impeachment hearings were going down, De Niro commented on the situation, saying, quote, "Can't wait to see Trump in jail," adding, quote, "I don't want him to die, I want him to go to jail," adding that Trump in office is an immediate problem, and I'm sure his views have not changed since that. And at number 6, Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel has been a longtime hater of Trump, taking any chance he can to call him out on his late night show, saying in a 2017 interview, quote, "He likes to have his name on things. Buildings, vodka, you name it. At this point, he would sign anything if it meant getting rid of Obamacare. He'd sign copies of the Quran at the Barnes & Noble if it meant he could get rid of Obamacare." Then more recently, when Trump was vocal about the possibility of fraud in the 2020 election, Kimmel commented back, quote, "It was a litany of lies, threats, just a despicable and incoherent attack on democracy and the United States. At the end of that speech, he should have gotten arrested. If they can find handcuffs small enough to take him away, they would have." Even adding that people should sue Donald Trump when he gets out of office. And yeah, based off all this, I'd say that Jimmy has been making his stance against Trump very clear for many years now. Halfway number 5, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has made her disdain for President Trump abundantly clear over the years, even at one point posing with Trump's severed head, getting her blacklisted from the entertainment industry as a result. Around the time of the last impeachment, Kathy tweeted numerous times in support of it. One tweet said, quote, "My beloved Speaker Pelosi, please allow me to politely disagree with you on one point. Yes, the impeachment process should be a solemn and serious constitutional act, but for some of us, it's hashtag Merry Impeachment," with her celebrating the idea of Trump potentially getting kicked out of office. She also recently replied to a tweet by CNN's Jake Tapper, which said, quote, "I don't use insulin. Should I be?" With Griffin responding that Trump should be given, quote, "a syringe with nothing but air inside of it. That would do the trick," which could be fatal. And if she's wishing that badly upon him, which I vehemently do not agree with, by the way, I don't agree with her, dangerous and violent rhetoric here, I think it's safe to say that she definitely wants him in jail. She wants a lot worse, but she definitely would want him in jail too. And at number 4, Sophia Bush. Actress Sophia Bush made her stance against President Trump clear when she responded to a tweet that said, quote, "The president, a senior advisor, says he's lost it. He's been impossible to talk to throughout the day today and has been watching the coverage of the Capitol," with Bush simply adding, quote, "It feels like a great time for the 25th Amendment. And if you're not aware, the 25th Amendment states that if the president will not be able to fill their duties, the vice president will step in and become the acting president until a new election is held." She's also retweeted many other tweets condemning the Republican Party that has allowed this all to take place. And at number 3, Bette Midler. Bette is another celebrity vehemently against the president. She tweeted multiple times in support of impeachment, but she also believes Trump needs jail time as well, with her tweeting in December of 2020, quote, "Hashtag President Trump is not a genuinely good man. He's a con man, fraud, blot on the American body politic. He deserves to go to jail. Anyone who does not understand this is simple-minded, dim-witted, or a product of the American public school system, which teaches nothing." And at number 2, Alyssa Milano. Alyssa Milano is a very vocal liberal activist on her social media profiles, and a majority of her posts are critical of Trump. And she was extremely vocal about impeachment. She even took the time to attend the impeachment trial, but she did have a more somber view of the whole thing than people expected, tweeting out while in the midst of it, quote, "It's a terrible day in our country's history, but, quote, great defense of our democracy." In another tweet which Milano pinned to her profile, the actress said she, quote, "expected this moment to be more joyful," adding, quote, "Maybe jump up and do a happy dance, maybe, but I'm just sad and heartbroken. What he's left behind can't be erased with this vote. The bigotry and xenophobia he's embodied, the lies that will take generations to recover." And it's safe to say she wants Trump to feel the repercussions of his actions. And finally, at number 1, Chrissy Teigen. The Twitter titan has had multiple public arguments with Trump, and she's denounced him several times over the years, saying in a 2017 interview, quote, "I've actually been a big Donald Trump hater for a long time. I've been trolling him for about 5 to 7 years now. I've been doing this forever and I take pride in that." Then in 2019, she made it clear that she supports jail time. Speaking to Vanity Fair, the model, who is famed for her Twitter takedowns of Trump, argued that impeachment is insufficient, saying, quote, "I think there needs to be jail time for him, for the whole family. I feel like he still gets away with everything if he gets out of his office. I know that after his first tweet after he's impeached will be, quote, 'I don't want to be there anyway.'" So guys, that is all for the video today. Let me know what you're thinking down below about all this. Do you think that Trump should be in jail? It's basically a recent update that he was just impeached for the second time. The only president in history to be impeached twice, but he has not been removed. And I guess now it's going to go to the Senate and they're going to vote if he will be removed this time. So it's kind of up in the air. I believe he only has about 5 days in office now at this point, so I don't think that they'll be able to do that fast enough to get him impeached, because at this point I think it's clear they just want him impeached so they don't have to deal with him in 2024. And there have actually been some theories online that Republican senators might actually agree to impeach Trump as well so that they don't have to deal with him in 2024 either, because if you're a Republican senator right now, you might be thinking of running for president in 2024. So there's really a lot up in the air here, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, and maybe after his presidency to see who does sue him, because I've heard companies trying to sue the government. They might go after him personally. There's just a lot going on here. So guys, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below, respectfully of course.
Starting us off with number 10, we got Twitter, the first of many platforms to put an end to what many believe divided the country in the first place, Trump's negative, divisive rhetoric. As you likely know, for years, even prior to him taking the Oval Office, Trump would turn to Twitter to either get his message across or slander his opponents. Whether it was talking about how the election was rigged and completely fraudulent, or simply wanted to question the intelligence or mental state of his competition, Joe Biden, it seems Trump used Twitter all the time. All hours of the night he'd be tweeting, and throughout the day, he'd be posting as well, either retweeting anyone showing him support, or talking about how the fake media and news is out to get him. And at first, it seems Twitter didn't want to ban him, as they tried working with the guy, putting disclaimers under the majority of his tweets, letting people know to click for more information regarding the potentially false claims. However, it wouldn't be long before Trump would be held accountable for inciting violence at the riot at the Capitol building. Twitter took it upon themselves almost immediately to remove not only his personal account, but his ability to tweet from the official POTUS Twitter account as well. Safe to say Jack over at Twitter is done with Trump's politics, and it seems Trump may need to find a new home to speak with his fans around the clock. On to number 9, Shopify. I know it may seem incredibly random that Shopify of all companies would ban Trump. It's literally just a platform to support storefronts. And as we know, with his slogan to make America great again, or keep it great, or build the wall, among many other sayings, well, it's all been turned into merchandise. Aside from your standard Trump 2020 tees and hats, it seems storefronts were also selling other Trump-inspired merchandise, and following the incident at the Capitol, well, that wasn't gonna fly anymore. More specifically, Shopify took down both the Trump Organization and Trump campaign merchandise storefronts, and when asked why, they specifically referred to Trump's actions and what they led to. A spokesperson released a statement reading, I quote, "Shopify does not tolerate actions that incite violence. Based on recent events, we have determined that the actions by President Donald J. Trump violate our acceptable use policy, which prohibits promotion or supports of organizations, platforms, or people that threaten or condone violence to further a cause. As a result, we have terminated stores affiliated with President Trump." Number 8, Facebook and Instagram. Given that both platforms are owned by Mark Zuckerberg, I figured it's only fair to put them together as one number. Unlike Twitter, it seems Trump didn't seem to care all that much to use any other platform, although he or his team did post on Facebook as well as Instagram, just not nearly as much as Twitter. That being said, following the previously mentioned incident that took place on January 6th at the Capitol, a handful of companies, including numerous social media platforms, felt it was in the country and potentially the world's best interest to remove him from their platforms. With this in mind, he was removed from Facebook and Instagram, with Zuck explaining, I quote, "We believe the risks of allowing the president to continue to use our service during this period are simply too great. Therefore, we are extending the block we have placed on his Facebook and Instagram accounts indefinitely, and for at least the next 2 weeks until the peaceful transition of power is complete." The inauguration was more than a week ago, and although it seems I can find Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts, they haven't been updated since January 6th. So maybe they exist, but he can't post, or he's choosing not to, but as per recent reports, it seems the council at Facebook is still trying to decide whether or not to allow him back on the platform, so maybe he just can't post. On to number 7, Deutsche Bank. Well, it actually seems like numerous banks decided to cut ties with Trump. However, Deutsche was the first. Back in the 80s and 90s when other banks didn't want anything to do with Trump, Deutsche was there. In fact, it was after a handful of bankruptcies that the others turned Trump away, but Deutsche didn't. Yet after what happened at the Capitol, the German bank decided enough was enough, and potentially dealt the biggest blow of all to the Trump family. Reports claim the Trump Organization, which is run by his 2 sons, owes the bank a total of about $340 million in loans. Over the years, the 2 sides have been involved in some controversies, with Trump even suing the bank and blaming them for some of his business decisions and losses. They still stood by him. However, this was the last straw, and it seems this bank cutting ties had a domino effect, as other banks, including Signature Bank in New York and the Professional Bank of Florida, also decided they no longer wanted to be associated with the former president. Gotta start stuffing that cash under the bed, baby. Moving us to number 6, Discord. I know, I wasn't expecting Discord on this list either, but here we are. For those of you unaware, Discord is a voice chat based platform where you could pretty much join chats or groups, usually made up of a community of like-minded people. Almost like Reddit with voice chat, but not really. You kind of just got to experience it to fully understand it. Either way, Trump himself isn't necessarily banned from Discord, nor do I think he even knows what it is. However, there was a server called The Donald which was banned from the platform, and to no surprise, the reason, I quote, due to its overt connection to an online forum used to incite violence and plan an armed insurrection. What online forum could they possibly be talking about? Obviously 4chan. Just kidding, guys. It wasn't 4chan, but it's a great way for me to segue into my next point. At number 5, Reddit. Now, I'm not going to say that Reddit is turning into 4chan because after the amount of money that I've made off of Wall Street bets, well, it's like night and day. Reddit is like the vaccine and 4chan is like the virus. So to find out that Reddit was the online forum that was being used to plan armed insurrections and incite violence, well, I won't say I was surprised, but I was almost certain it'd be 4chan. However, Reddit is massive and they can only monitor so much. So to no surprise, there were actually numerous threads supporting everything Trump said and stood for, regardless of what it meant or who it would hurt. So when Trump said to show up on January 6th, walk down to the Capitol and show how strong you are, well, these people did exactly that. And following this series of events, Reddit decided to ban the subreddit, which is like a forum, titled r/Donald Trump for, I quote, repeated policy violations in recent days regarding the violence at the US Capitol. In the past, Reddit has also banned the subreddit the_Donald in June last year for violating hate speech policies. On to number 4, we got Stripe, as in the company that accepts payments. These companies are literally saying we'll lose money to ensure we don't support this guy anymore. Nice. Now, Stripe was actually one of the main payment processing companies that Trump and his campaign used to fundraise. To no surprise, when asked why they've decided to stop accepting payments, they did not have an official comment, but I think we all know what happened here. At one point, it seems PayPal also refused to accept payments, although it's unclear if they're still sticking to that. Taking us to number 3, we got TikTok. Bruh. It seemed since day one, TikTok and Trump had been at odds with each other. Citing the Chinese-owned app as a security risk for months on end, Trump tried to ban the app from the country until ultimately that decision was vetoed. So naturally, the app, which already had a disdain for the president, decided they were going to take things one step further and ban the hashtags Storm the Capitol and Patriot Party. Although it seems Trump doesn't even have a TikTok account, if he did, he'd likely have gotten banned when he tried getting the app removed from the country in the first place. On top of that, the app also removed any clips showing Trump's speech days before the incident when he told supporters they needed to march down to the Capitol. So, it's not like an official ban on him as a person, but like everything to do with him, they're like, I don't want to give you guys the finger, but you guys can pretend I'm doing it. I like you guys too much. Number 2, YouTube. Unlike a handful of the other platforms mentioned, Trump actually had quite a large YouTube following with over 3 million subscribers. They initially temporarily banned the account, I quote, in light of the ongoing potential for violence, but have since extended the ban indefinitely. The ban came into effect after the channel reposted his speech in Texas, where he could be seen saying, I quote, the 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. YouTube didn't specify which policy the channel broke, but it seems they're not letting up on the ban anytime soon. And honestly, I've been on YouTube long enough. Don't expect an answer from them. You're not gonna get one. Now, number 1, New York. Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. Too bad Trump can't sing my favorite Sinatra song with me anymore because he's apparently banned from doing work with the entire city of New York. Mayor Bill de Blasio said following the riots at the Capitol, the city would no longer be doing any business with the Trump organization, who had a 30-year-old contract with the city to manage a couple skating rinks in Central Park, as well as the carousel. Aside from this, the mayor also cut ties with Trump's golf course in the Bronx. To no surprise, the Trump family was upset by this, with Eric Trump saying the mayor has no right to do so and will owe them $30 million if he does. Well, if that's the case, maybe they could use that money to pay back the $340 or whatever I said that they owed to the bank.
Coming in at number 10, Kofifi. On May 31st, 2017, at 6 minutes after midnight, President Trump sent out a really bizarre tweet. This apparent typo sent the world into a downward spiral of trying to decode what the hell Kofifi meant. The tweet remained up for about 5.5 hours before finally being deleted. To quote the tweet for you, it said, despite the constant negative press, Kofifi. And that tweet got 127,484 retweets and over 160,000 likes by the time it was taken down. To make this typo into even more of a conspiracy theory though, the press secretary at the time, Sean Spicer, said at a news conference, I think the president and a small group of people know exactly what he meant. For many of Trump's critics though, this represented a display of incompetence from America's leader. But first, before I hit our next point, I need you guys to hit that like button to show some love to the channel. And with that out of the way, let's just move on, shall we? Coming in at number 9, fake news. Trump sure does love calling people fake news, so much that he probably thinks any negative press against him is fake. Much like Richard Nixon, he depends solely on the silencing of his opposition to appear greater than he is. By only reading what his own fan base thinks, it just continues his moment-to-moment confirmation bias. And to prove that, this tweet reads, Any negative polls are fake news, just like the CNN, ABC, NBC polls in the election. Sorry, people want border security and extreme vetting. Now, I'm not saying all of these news organizations are perfect, but calling someone fake news because you don't agree with their polling data is just crazy, and from his position of power, it's simply unconscionable. Coming in at number 8, no sign of intelligent life. Back in May of 2013, Trump was nowhere near the presidency, but he was still spouting off about just how high his IQ levels were. Trump said, "Sorry losers and haters, but my IQ is one of the highest and you all know it. Please don't feel so stupid or insecure, it's not your fault." I believe it was Stephen Hawking who said, "People who boast about their IQs are losers." So who are you gonna trust on this matter? To me, it just shows Trump's lack of awareness and humility. I don't think spouting off that you have a high IQ is anything that people actually will take seriously, and swap that with blind confidence and maybe we're getting somewhere. Coming in at number 7, blatant discrimination. On November 25th, 2014, Donald Trump was making some very ignorant remarks about the sitting president, Barack Obama. If you don't agree with his policies, that's one thing, but blaming it on the man's race has absolutely nothing to do with anything. Trump tweeted, "Sadly, because President Obama has done such a poor job as president, you won't see another black president for generations. By that standard, let's make sure that America never elects another old white reality TV show star with a fake tan that makes him look like he's going to a Halloween party as the annoying orange. For generations." Sorry, I forgot to add that. In at number 6, Mr. Conspiracy. Trump loves keeping the American public divisive and fighting as they sit in the greatest economic crash of all time. Over 40 million Americans are unemployed and people are dying for a number of different reasons, but if he can stir up some conspiracies from a tweet he sent from his bunker, you won't have the capacity to focus on what he's actually been doing. He claimed that the media was only showing a bright side to looters, but that is just straight up false. Not one person thinks that the looters are part of the peaceful protesters, but by mixing those two together, he felt that it was valid to send in the National Guard. Even worse was dispersing his own Secret Service to attack peaceful protesters because he wanted a photo op at a church. Trump tweeted on June 2nd at 9:29 p.m., "So pathetic to watch the fake news lamestream media playing down the gravity and depravity of the radical left, looters and thugs ripping up our liberal Democrat-run only cities. It is almost like they're all working together. Except for the fact that this is happening in all 50 states that you were in charge of." Okay. Coming in at number 5, complete denial. Back in June of 2016, Trump had been labeled as a racist, which was a big talking point for a lot of his competition. In order to take his competition down and muddy the water, Trump said Mitt Romney had his chance to beat a failed president, but he choked like a dog. Now he calls me racist, but I am least racist person there is. By referring to a human being as a dog, you're not exactly convincing us or anyone that you are the least racist person ever, or that there is. I don't know what he said in that tweet. You're just convincing everyone that you certainly have the ability to stoop as low as possible to raise yourself up. That's really all that is. Coming in at number 4, global warming. In case you were not aware, Donald Trump is basically the authority on climate change, and he's arrived at the conclusion that it's fictional. Simply because he doesn't agree with the media, so he must take the furthest side from what they're saying. Trump, the science expert, said on Twitter back in 2014, "Windmills are the greatest threat in the US to both bald and golden eagles. Media claims fictional global warming is worse." I can guarantee you that he will swap his stance when Mar-a-Lago is underwater. Because here's how blind he is too, and this actually affects Mar-a-Lago specifically, which is all the more baffling. Trump actually axed a rule that would help protect coastal properties from flooding. In June of 2017, he announced that it was in the country's best interest to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. And it might not work out. Or just wear rain boots, I guess? I don't know. Coming in number 3, child's play. Bob the Builder over here loves to tell everyone constantly how much he builds. He builds the best Lego structures of all time. He just keeps building things. It's amazing. Back in May of 2015, Trump attacked his competition, including the very party that he would join, by saying, "I am the best builder. Just look at what I've built. Hillary can't build. Republican candidates can't build. They don't have a clue." In reality, he doesn't build anything. He just simply slaps his name on it and claims he built it. I mean, look at this Trump tie, made in China. What a legendary builder. It doesn't matter that it's made in China and he has his logo on it. I mean, lots of companies do that. The point is that he's claiming he personally is responsible for it all, which is just ludicrous. Coming in at number 2, never forget. Donald Trump loves speaking in the third person, but on more than one occasion, he actually tagged himself and then complimented himself as himself. On September 11, 2013, Trump said, @RealDonaldTrump, I would like to extend my best wishes to all, even the haters and losers, on this special date, September 11th. What in the what? Not only did he tweet that gem out, but he also bragged that he had donated to charities that would assist the victims of 9/11, only to turn around and actually give nothing. You can look that up. Coming in at number 1, the J is for joke. So next up we have this lovely tweet where Trump said, "The media is so after me on women. Wow, this is a tough business. Nobody has more respect for women than Donald Trump." Nobody has more respect for women? Well, how about that leaked audio from Access Hollywood, which clearly shows how little you care about women, dude?
At number 10, the White House. After you finish your term, although a ton of the staff may remember you as their former boss, that's no longer the case. So, just like the rest of us, Trump can't just walk back into the White House just for some memories. He'd have to get an invitation from the new president, Joe Biden, and I really don't see that happening anytime soon. Given how Trump attacked Biden and his family while the two debated, I feel like we won't ever see both of these guys in the same room ever again. That being said, as of right now, it seems like we're not going to be seeing a lot of people in the same room as Donald Trump, whether it be due to the fact that they no longer want to associate with him or simply because he's not allowed to go there, which brings me to my next point. Number 9, Mexico. There's just something about Trump talking about building a wall and, as he said, keeping them out, that the entire country of Mexico and their citizens likely didn't appreciate, and to no surprise, that wasn't even the worst of it. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but Trump had some pretty awful and disgusting things to say about people from Mexico. So to no surprise, why would they welcome him into their country with open arms? If anything, the majority of his presidential campaign against Hillary was either attacking her or attacking the country of Mexico. Surprisingly, Mexico's president Andrés Manuel López Obrador was actually fond of Trump, but many believed he simply acted respectful and friendly to remain in the former president's good books in hopes that Trump would be more willing to offer the country support, which when all was said and done, he did, but I'm sure AMLO, as they call Mexico's president, is going to be much happier, genuinely, with President Biden. Number 8, Area 51. Unless somehow, someway, we all band together to figure out a better game plan than last time, it seems Trump won't be stepping foot inside Area 51. To no surprise, now that he is no longer an official government employee, although he does get some benefits, one of them isn't the option to visit former workplaces. You'd think maybe he can't go to the White House for security reasons or because it's the most prestigious of them all, but it seems after you're president, it really doesn't matter what you did in the past. Unless given authorization by whoever is in power to do so, whether it be the president, vice president, or so on, it seems Donald Trump won't be able to get any evidence to prove that Area 51 is actually holding aliens. At least, as of now. Who knows, guys? Who's to say another Facebook group doesn't go viral? We get all jacked up on Monster Energy drinks, change the name to Kyle, and do the Naruto run. You guys know how that worked out. Now up next at 7, the PGA Championship. Now this isn't so much a location as much as it is an event, and depending on where the event takes place, Trump would likely not be welcomed. Here's the story. As many of you may or may not know, Trump is a huge golf guy. Loves to play it, loves to watch it. Loves everything about the sport. So to no surprise, in the past, his golf courses have been used to host golfing events. One of the biggest golfing events in the world is the PGA Championship, which was going to be using one of Trump's golf courses in 2022. However, after January 6th, it seems the Professional Golfers Association decided, like many other brands and companies, they no longer wanted to be associated with the president at the time. On January 10th, Jim Richardson, PGA of America president, said in a statement, I quote, "The PGA of America Board of Directors voted tonight to exercise the right to terminate the agreement to play the 2022 PGA Championship at Trump Bedminster." A spokesperson for Trump's organization said, I quote, "This is a breach of a binding contract and they have no right to terminate the agreement. As an organization, we have invested many millions of dollars into the 2022 PGA Championship at Trump National Golf Club, Bedminster. We will continue to promote the game of golf on every level and remain focused on operating the finest golf courses anywhere in the world." Safe to say they'll never work together again, guys. That's it. At number 6, Iran. Much like Mexico and their citizens, President Trump insulted and ridiculed many Middle Eastern countries and their citizens as well over his 4 years and even leading up to the first election. However, of all the countries, it seems Iran would be the one that despises the former president the most, likely due to the fact that he greenlit the assassination of former military general Qasem Soleimani. In fact, when this first happened at the beginning of 2020, many feared that Trump may have unofficially started World War III. Thankfully, it didn't get to that point, but the country has still to this day claimed they will get their revenge on Trump. The supreme leader of Iran tweeted out on December 16th, I quote, "Those who ordered the murder of General Soleimani, as well as those who carried this out, should be punished. The revenge will certainly happen at the right time." So it seems he won't be going to Iran anytime soon, and he may want that lifetime Secret Service option they offer you on the way out of the White House. Halfway now at number 5, Twitter. It seems he's going to be banned for life from this one. Although almost every social media platform, including Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Discord, Reddit, I mean the list goes on and on. They all blocked either the former president or something related to him, whether it be a thread or a chat room or a hashtag. However, people made other versions of the same chat room under a different name, and the same can be said for the threads. Facebook and Instagram have reinstated his accounts, although he hasn't posted on them in over a month, a day prior to the Capitol storming. Twitter, on the other hand, well, they've appeared to have given him a lifetime ban, and that seems to hit him where it really hurts. If this man loves two things, it's golf and Twitter, and with the PGA Championship and now Twitter giving him the cold shoulder, who knows what he'll do with his free time. It's like that Pablo Escobar meme when he's just like standing there and he's just It's funny. At number 4, Mike Pence's house. Yeah, you guys probably weren't expecting this on the list, were ya? Throwing a little curveball here at ya. I was gonna add Fauci's house and Biden's, but I felt that Pence would probably be the funniest of them all. At one point, Mikey here, the former vice president of the United States of America, seemed to do anything and everything Trump wanted him to do. Donald would say jump, and Mike would say how high. It was actually funny and kind of sad at the same time. And even with all the kicking and screaming that Trump did over the years, it seems Pence always stood by his side. Through all the BS, Pence was still there. Almost until the very last day, when it seemed quite evident that they lost the election, and Trump just didn't want to admit that. So when it came down to Pence, who officially had to sign off on the Electoral College votes, in which he was going to admit defeat, Trump gave him an option, or I guess an ultimatum. He said something along the lines of, you could go down in history as a man or be something else. He used a different word. He didn't say something else. He used a different word. And ever since, it seems their relationship went downhill significantly. In fact, reports even claim that Trump left all the duties to Pence the last few weeks of presidency when he knew he was officially done. So I don't think they'll be having dinner together anytime soon. Number 3, Fox News/CNN. Really any news network or station, but these two seem to stick out the most to me. Now, I'm not sure they wouldn't want him on set. Maybe they would invite him because they know his name would draw views. That being said, as we've seen during the pandemic, a lot of interviews can be done remotely, and I'm sure if given the chance to do so, staff and the anchors of both CNN and Fox would likely want to opt for a virtual conversation. From the get-go, it's been evident that CNN has been somewhat out to get Trump, and not to say that they misreport information, but I think from an objective standpoint, you could see there is some bias there against him. Now, the same could be said in favor of Trump in regards to Fox News, up until they officially announced Joe Biden the winner of the election, which then turned them into one of the most unreliable, worst news networks in the world, at least according to Trump. Don't worry, Donald, we've all known that for years, pal. Now at number 2, Air Force One. Yes, the private jet that the President of the United States of America flies around in to get anywhere. Now, I'm sure Trump has a private jet of his own, so it's not so much the travel he'll miss, but more so the experience of Air Force One. In fact, Air Force One is actually just the air traffic control signal for the airplane carrying the President of the United States. So it's not one specific plane, but more so whichever plane is carrying the current president, which means it's pretty safe to say that Trump and President Biden aren't going to ever be on the same flight anytime soon, or ever, probably. Number 1, China. I mean, I really don't need to explain this one to you guys, do I? Much like the other countries I mentioned, while he was president, Trump bashed not only the country, but their citizens, and then refused to take any responsibility for what the virus had done to his own country, again blaming China. Aside from that, he's made it very difficult for the country to do business without getting heavily taxed, and ensured numerous apps and businesses would no longer be able to operate in the US. All in all, it seems China and Iran are likely the two countries who hate Trump the most, but Mexico and the US aren't far behind. Had to throw in like a little jab there. Just a little boop. Little jab on him.
Donald Trump's Florida home was crawling with FBI agents Monday, raiding his Mar-a-Lago resort as part of a search warrant while the former president was away in New York City. The Justice Department has been investigating the potential mishandling of classified information since the National Archives and Records Administration said it had received 15 boxes of White House records, including documents containing classified information from Mar-a-Lago earlier this week. The National Archives said Trump should have turned over that material upon leaving office, which he obviously didn't, meaning Trump improperly took these documents from the White House to his Florida home. The Justice Department obviously did not trust that this was all Trump had, and so it investigated. In order for the FBI to search Trump's home, they had to first get the approval of the Attorney General himself, and then go to a federal judge and submit hard proof there is probable cause to believe a crime was committed. There are multiple federal laws governing the handling of classified records and sensitive government documents, including statutes that make it a crime to remove such material and retain it at an unauthorized location, like his resort. But it is worth noting that even though a search warrant was issued, it does not necessarily mean criminal charges are expected. It just proves that they have a good enough reason to believe Trump has committed a crime. This actually has never happened before in US history. A former president in the active crosshairs of a federal criminal investigation, and one that was serious enough for a search warrant. Politicians involved have called it a dramatic and unprecedented escalation of law enforcement, with Trump himself releasing a very long statement saying that agents had opened a safe at his home, which, yeah, they had a search warrant, and he described their work as an unannounced raid while stating that the search was a, quote, weaponization of the criminal justice system, and a Democratic-driven effort to keep him from winning another term in 2024. Meanwhile, the Biden White House said it had no prior knowledge of the raid, and the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, was appointed by Trump himself 5 years ago, so I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys to figure out. Just keep it civil in the comments, please. Please and thank you. Trump wrote in his Monday night statement, "These are dark times for our nation as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents." Trump wrote, "Nothing like this has ever happened to a president in the United States before." Continuing, "After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate." After the raid, about 24 Trump supporters stood in protest on Tuesday on a bridge near the former president's residence. One held a sign reading, quote, "Democrats are fascists," while others carried flags saying 2020 was rigged and Trump 2024. It is currently unclear what the FBI agents seized from Trump's home and safe. The Justice Department is also currently investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 national election and also investigating Trump's role in the January 6th insurrection, with a number of former Trump administration officials recently testifying before a grand jury.
Will Donald Trump actually return to Twitter? It looks like Elon Musk is allowing it. The tech billionaire organized a poll on Twitter to determine whether or not users wish to see Trump's account reinstated. Slightly over 15 million Twitter users voted in the poll, with 51.8% voting in favor of reinstatement. Musk then tweeted the results and said, "The people have spoken. Trump will be reinstated." Trump's Twitter account, which had over 88 million followers before he was banned, began accumulating followers and had nearly 100,000 by 10 p.m. on Saturday. Although surprisingly, the former US president had appeared less than excited over the news and said that he doesn't see any reason to return to the platform. Instead, he insisted that he would stick with Truth Social, the app that was developed by Trump Media and Technology Group, which he says has better user engagement than Twitter anyway, and was doing phenomenally well. Truth Social has been his main source of direct communication with his followers ever since he began posting on the app regularly in May. He's used it to promote his allies, criticize his opponents, and try to defend his reputation. Last week, the former president announced that he will seek the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. He said, "In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States." He went on to say, "I have no doubt that by 2024, it will sadly be much worse, and they will see clearly what has happened and is happening to our country, and the voting will be much different. It's obvious that in the lead up to the election, he is going to try and do everything he possibly can to win back voters, which will be a massive uphill battle." So then why is he refusing to return to Twitter? While he has praised Elon Musk and said he always liked him, he also said that the problems Twitter now faces are incredible because it suffers from too many bots and fake accounts, and it's likely that he doesn't agree with how Musk is running the shop. Since implementing the Twitter Blue subscription service, the Twitterverse has been thrust into chaos. With users now able to purchase the iconic blue checkmark next to their name, there has been overwhelming issues when it comes to the impersonation of companies and public figures. Several accounts with blue checkmarks posed as companies like Eli Lilly and Pepsi, tweeting fake messages about free insulin and the superiority of Coca-Cola. One account even pretended to be Tesla and bragged about using labor. So with the blue checkmark having lost its status symbol of verification, there is very little incentive for public figures to keep using Twitter. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why Trump will not be coming back to the platform. Well, that and his pride, considering that he was removed from the platform after the Capitol riots, allegedly for inciting the violence. His return has been rumored for several months now, as back in May, Musk first announced that he planned to reverse the ban, although he has since sought to reassure users and advertisers that such a decision would be made with consideration by a content moderation council composed of people with widely diverse viewpoints, and no account reinstatements would happen before the council convened. He also said Twitter would not reinstate any banned users until there was a clear process for doing so, but just this week he decided to reinstate comedian Kathy Griffin, who was banned for changing her profile name to Elon Musk, which violated the new rule against impersonation. But a no-show by Trump could reduce concerns among major advertisers, who are already rattled by Musk's drastic reshaping of the company. So far we know that he has halved the workforce and severely cut the company's trust and safety team, which is responsible for preventing the spread of misinformation and harmful content. These actions have pushed major companies to halt advertising on the site as they monitor how the platform is going to handle hate speech. Since the takeover, it's become clear that Twitter is facing a myriad of issues. Just recently, Musk called on Twitter's remaining employees to sign up for the long hours at high intensity or pack their bags. And as a result, they have band together and decided not to accept his new terms. One former Twitter employee told BBC that everyone in their team has been sacked, and now there's nobody left in the chain of command. Another worker who chose to remain anonymous claimed that he had already been working 60 to 70 hours each week before he was asked to sign the pledge. The email that was sent around the office read, "Going forward to build a breakthrough Twitter 2.0 and succeed in an increasingly competitive world, we will need to be extremely hardcore. This will mean working long hours at high intensity. Only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade." While it's not yet known exactly how many employees accepted Musk's ultimatum, it has been reported that hundreds have since walked out of the company after being pushed to their absolute limit. The company's future has never been more uncertain, so we'll just have to wait and see what becomes of it.
The Nelk Boys recently had former President Donald Trump on their podcast, and within 24 hours of it being online, YouTube decided to remove the video, which coincidentally is something that Trump said would happen in the conversation itself. For those of you who don't know, the Nelk Boys are a group of Canadian content creators that became well known for their prank videos, vlogs, and their brand Full Send Entertainment. After becoming good friends with people like Dana White, they were slowly introduced to others like Donald Trump, and because of their connections and popularity, they've been able to have on huge guests like Mike Tyson, Jamie Foxx, and Gary Vee, just to name a few. When Trump appeared on the podcast on March 10th, it set the internet on fire, especially once he started speaking about his time in office and what he's been up to since. And if you missed the episode, well then you missed it. Like I said earlier, YouTube removed the podcast after less than 24 hours of it being live. In that time, the episode received more than 6 million views and was even about to set a new record for the Full Send channel. After removing it, the platform cited that the video violated their misinformation policy. More specifically, the claims made about the 2020 presidential election. Kyle posted the notice from YouTube to Twitter, and in the letter they say, "Our team has reviewed your content and unfortunately we think it violates our misinformation policy. We've removed the following content from YouTube: Donald Trump on WW3, talking to Putin and Joe Rogan." The letter goes on to say, "We know that this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. If content breaks our rules, we remove it. If you think we've made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look." Then the letter gets into the real reason as to why they took this podcast down. It goes on to say, "Content that advances false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches change the outcome of the US 2020 presidential election is not allowed on YouTube." And after Trump learned of YouTube taking down the episode, he hopped on a call with Fox News to speak about what happened. In doing so, he also gave the YouTubers a shout out and thanked them for having him on, referring to it as one of YouTube's top podcasts multiple times. And he reiterated on this call that he said during the podcast that it would get removed, which was also pointed out by many on Twitter who had also watched the episode. One user tweeted, "Bro, Trump said in the Nelk podcast that YouTube is going to take this podcast down. Kyle and the Nelk Boys literally said, 'No, Mr. Trump, YouTube doesn't do that with our content.' A few hours later, they flip and take it down. No way." The Nelk Boys do still have the option to appeal the removal, but we're not sure if they're actually going to do that. The full episode is now up on their website, fullsend.com, and so I'm sure they're probably happier with the hits going to that instead. Yes, it sucks if it's down on YouTube, but again, they can sell their own merch on their website. Even if they do appeal the strike and YouTube allows it back on the platform, you know it's going to be under the condition that they edit out everything that they don't like. In a separate written statement, Donald Trump spoke further about the matter and said, "Whatever happened to free speech in our country? Incredibly, but not surprisingly, the big tech lunatics have taken down my interview with the very popular Nelk Boys so that nobody can watch it or in any way listen to it," which is false. You can't actually still listen to it. In the 24 hours that it was up, it set every record for them by many times. Interestingly, on the show, I told them that this would happen because big tech and the fake news media fear the truth, they fear criticism about Biden, and above all, they don't want to talk about the rigged 2020 presidential election, all topics discussed. He then goes on to compare him being banned on YouTube to Russia controlling what their people see about the Ukraine invasion. Trump goes on to say, "In Russia, the people are not allowed to know that they're fighting a war with Ukraine. That's where our media is going, and that's where our country is going because it quickly follows. Just study history. Are we going to allow this to happen? Our country is going to hell. Look at your gas prices, inflation, the Afghanistan debacle, our border, the war with Ukraine, which should have never happened, and so much more. We need freedom of speech again. We don't have it, and it's getting worse every day." Now, all this will really do is act as either a perfect advertisement for a new presidential run or his new social media platform called Truth Social.
Nice to meet you. I have to say hi. Hello.
Like buddy, you know?
Nice to meet you.
Buddy, you know?
Addison Rae exposed.
She knows. knows what she's doing.
One of the biggest stars on TikTok just got herself into some serious hot water after seemingly playing nice with former President Donald Trump. The whole interaction was caught on camera by the Nelk boys who were sitting right behind Trump at a recent UFC event. I'm gonna get into all the details of this backlash in just a moment, but first, if you can do us a big favor and please tap that like button, we'd really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's begin. The Nelk boys have always been open about their friendship with Donald Trump. There was the time that they appeared at one of his final rallies, and they even hung out with Trump on Air Force One. The reason for this is because they also had a connection with Dana White from the UFC, who also had become close friends with Trump. So it's no wonder that at the recent UFC fight between McGregor and Poirier, that they would be sitting up front and behind Donald Trump. I'm sure when they started filming at the event though, they never expected to see Addison Rae making her way through the crowd to meet briefly with Trump. In the video posted by the Nelk boys, you can hear her introduce herself to Donald Trump after lightly tapping him on his shoulder. She then can be heard saying, "I have to say hi, it's so nice to meet you." And then she's gone back into the crowd because, believe it or not, but I believe Addison wasn't at the fight night to just see if Conor McGregor would win or not. She was there to network. All throughout that night, various celebrities were all posting their photos with the TikTok star. So we can speculate as to whether or not she is a genuine fan of Trump, but most likely she was simply trying to make the rounds and meet every major celebrity that she could. Now that being said, it probably wasn't a great PR move to be chummy with the guy that literally wanted to end TikTok. Plus, back in September of 2020, a viral TikTok appeared to show that Addison had actually registered as a Republican 3 times. Once in 2014, again in 2016, and again in 2018. The video racked up more than 1 million views, and so Addison had to address it. In her response, she said, "This isn't real. First, I'm from Louisiana. Second, I'm not even registered to vote and never have been. I'm actually doing it for the first time with someone important, and I'm excited to do so. This is fake." Then on top of that, Twitter users back in April of 2020 believe that they saw a Trump 2020 flag in a photo that she posted showing off her messy room, although she was quick to point out that it was simply an Old Navy souvenir from 2010. Bizarrely, this wasn't even her only controversy at the UFC event. Addison also came under attack for simply reporting at the event after studying broadcast journalism for just 3 months. Going back to this Trump controversy though, many people online expressed their disappointment in seeing how friendly she was with the former president. One person said, "Steals from black creators and coddles white supremacists? Are we really surprised?" Although on the flip side, there was also people defending her for approaching him. In defense of Addison, another person writes, "What's wrong with her saying hi? What's even wrong with her supporting him? What's happened to democracy?" A lot of questions here. "I thought everyone can do whatever they want. I think people would cancel anyone who doesn't agree with them nowadays." However, as you can see by the difference in likes on both of those tweets, it's much more widely accepted to express hate towards Addison and Trump's meeting. I don't care either way. I'm more shocked by the fact that just anyone could walk right up to him like that without any security stopping them. So yesterday, the House voted to impeach President Donald Trump for a second time for his role in last week's riot at the US Capitol. The House vote was 232 to 197 to impeach, which, as I mentioned, marked the first time in history that a US president had been impeached twice. Additionally, 10 Republicans also joined the Democrats in their effort to impeach Donald Trump for his incitement of the insurrection that took place. It's also important to note that the impeachment won't force Trump from office. The Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell did say that Trump wouldn't face trial until after President-elect Joe Biden is sworn in. This vote comes as a much-needed and visceral response from lawmakers in both parties. This deadly pro-Trump mob that overran Capitol Police and ransacked the building put the lives of many politicians at risk, including Vice President Mike Pence. As House Speaker Nancy Pelosi took the floor ahead of the vote, she said, "We know that the President of the United States incited this insurrection, this armed rebellion against our common country. He must go. He is a clear and present danger to the nation that we all love." Now, House Number 3 Republican Liz Cheney of Wyoming also joined the effort to impeach Trump and stated, "There has never been a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution." In addition to Liz Cheney, another Republican that voted to impeach was Tom Rice of South Carolina. Mr. Rice also made a very good observation about how the president responded to his supporters attacking the Capitol. In a statement, he said, "The president has not addressed the nation to ask for calm. He has not visited the injured and grieving. He has not offered condolences. Yesterday in a press briefing at the border, he said his comments were perfectly appropriate." Tom Rice then went on to say, "I have backed this president through thick and thin for 4 years. I campaigned for him and voted for him twice, but this utter failure is inexcusable." Now, as I mentioned earlier, Mitch McConnell is not planning on bringing the Senate back for a trial before January 19th, which means the trial of Donald Trump won't begin until Biden is in office. That being said, this is certainly going to throw a wrench into the first 100 days of Joe Biden's presidency. This impeachment will certainly impact his ability to reach across the aisle to Republicans that are still vehemently defending Trump. Plus, the Senate is going to be tied up with this trial for a while, which means everything else takes a back seat. In a statement made Wednesday evening, President-elect Joe Biden said, "It was a bipartisan vote cast by members who followed the Constitution and their conscience." He then switched gears to speaking about the pandemic and added, "This nation also remains in the grip of a deadly virus and a reeling economy. I hope that the Senate leadership will find a way to deal with their constitutional responsibilities on impeachment while also working on the other urgent businesses of this nation." Now, in addition to this, a Republican congresswoman named Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has also announced that she would be filing articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. Yes, you heard that correctly. She's going to be accusing him of abuse of power the day after his inauguration, which basically tells you all you need to know about American politics right now. It is a hot mess, and I don't think this is going to calm down any further once Joe Biden is sworn into office. Also, I've watched a lot of people online confused as to why they would impeach Trump with him being so close to finishing his term. This is about far more than just getting him out of the White House. The Senate has the power to disqualify a convicted president from ever holding office again, which Trump said he wanted to do in 2024. In addition to that, according to the National Taxpayers Union, the government spends about $4 million a year for various perks and subsidies for the 4 living ex-presidents. Those perks that Trump will be barred from using due to impeachment include a pension, government allowance, travel reimbursements up to $1 million, lifetime security services provided by the Secret Service, health benefits, and funerals with full honors.
A stop to the silencing and a stop to the blacklisting, banishing, and canceling that you know so well.
Yes, that's right, folks. Donald Trump is back in our ethos, and he is suing Facebook, Google, and Twitter on behalf of victims of cancel culture. Although we all know the only person Trump is looking out for is Trump, especially after all of these platforms unceremoniously, for lack of a better term, banned him from their platforms. You know, he has just been trying to find a way now to get back at them for that. But I'm going to get into all those details in just a moment. But first, if you could do us a big favor and please tap that like button, we'd really appreciate it. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Former President Donald Trump has filed a major lawsuit against Google, Facebook, Twitter, and their CEOs for violating the First Amendment. During a press conference, he said, "I stand before you this morning to announce a very important and very beautiful, I think, development for our freedom and our freedom of speech, and that goes to all Americans." Adding, "Today, in conjunction with the American First Policy Institute, I am filing as the lead class representative a major class action lawsuit against the big tech giants including Facebook, Google, and Twitter, as well as their CEOs Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, and Jack Dorsey." For a long time, Donald Trump has been a controversial figure online, mainly because we never really thought that we'd see a president of the United States subtweeting the North Korean leader and calling him Little Rocket Man in the process. Trump being president terrified many and emboldened others. After having warnings regarding the election added to all of his tweets surrounding that mess, Twitter decided to ban him outright, citing that there was a risk of further incitement of violence. In what seemed to be a coordinated effort, Facebook did the exact same thing with their oversight board, ruling that the ban would last for at least 2 years. According to Axios, Trump is seeking immediate injunctive relief to allow the prompt restoration of his social media accounts, there it is, in addition to imposing punitive damages on the big 3 social media giants. This lawsuit is even being supported by the American First Policy Institute, which was a non-profit launch for Trump's policies through the Constitutional Litigation Partnership. Or an easier way to say that is that Trump started a charity to defend his policies as president, because who would dare attack a charity? I'll tell you who, the people that don't want America to be first. The lawsuit is also apparently there to allow Trump to sue on behalf of people who feel like their lives have been negatively affected by Facebook and Twitter censorship, such as conservative commentators who speak frequently about being silenced, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but it is what it is. Now, while I am not a fan of Trump, I do agree that giving over this much power to 3 companies is a horrendous idea. We all know how powerful social media companies can be when it comes down to them acting on that power. Even here at I.O., we had a video from years ago that was up on our channel and never had any issues, and then all of a sudden there was a slight change to YouTube's policies and boom, our channel gets a strike and we're shut down for a week. We couldn't even do a community post if we wanted to, and our entire business model depends on creating content, so once you're not allowed to do that, it really shakes everything up. Although I'm not quite sure what a social media platform would look like if they just let everything go back to being the Wild West. I agree that there needs to be rules in place and guidelines put down, but when it comes to banning certain individuals, it needs to be handled by some third-party service separate from the company and without any context as to who that person is. Just simply ask them, based on what you see here and what you know our rules to be, do you believe this person violated the rules? Because if you said, do you believe Donald Trump broke the rules, and this person just happens to hate Trump regardless of working for Twitter or any social platform, they're not even going to need to see the evidence. They're just going to go, yeah, he's guilty. And same goes the other way as well. They're just going to immediately ban based on emotion alone, which is what we need to be getting away from here. While confirming Trump's continued ban, Facebook said in a statement, "We know today's decision will be criticized by many people on opposing sides of the political divide, but our job is to make make a decision in as proportionate, fair, and transparent a way as possible, in keeping with the instruction given to us by the Oversight Board. With Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey later adding, "I believe this was the right decision for Twitter. We face an extraordinary and untenable circumstance forcing us to focus all of our actions on public safety. Offline harm as a result of online speech is demonstrably real and what drives our policy and enforcement above all."